If I look a little more pink than I usually do visually or sound a little more red raw than I usually do if you're listening over the airwaves, it's because I just spent 45 minutes soaking and just sous videing, whatever the word is when you put meat in a hot bath and it just swishes it around to cook it fully. I spent 45 minutes doing that and then about 7 minutes screaming into a pillow. We are T-minus 8 hours till I have to be up to then go to the airport to go to London. And I am thinking of you. I am thinking of content. I am thinking of feeding the beast of social media and the entertainment industry. Isn't that insane to think that on a technical level, I and the bullshit I serve you on a fucking platter every week is considered part of the entertainment industry, in quotes? I mean, so much is part of said industry that really shouldn't be. But anyway, I'm sweating because I just got out of a fucking hot bath. People want to talk about ice baths. I want to talk about a sous vide. I need to check how to say this word if I'm going to be referencing it for the next 17 minutes because that's all I've got left on the schedule for this. Sous vide bath meat. We haven't had to Google things in a while, which isn't necessarily a good thing. It's just I think I lost my zest, shine, and general curiosity for how to do things correctly. But now I'm back. Okay, here we go. Breathe in. Welcome to What the Fuchs with Jess Fuchs. Now breathe out. And scream. Because here's what's pissed Jess off this week.
Usually said as sous vide, sous vide. Now, it is a little bit curious because yes, the S in French to sous is...
So I had an argument once with someone and I still don't have a good answer for it. However, this person who I already kind of position in my mind as racist and just difficult. They claim, so how do we begin? So they would always pronounce words like Spanish words. So like, let's say they were like being like, hey, do you guys want to go to the shop and get queso? And they'd pronounce the word, but only with, only with certain races would they use the pronunciation. And I said to them, and we got in a fight because I said, just say it like you're an American. Just say it with an American accent because you are a white American who cannot speak any other languages. But then because you've been to Mexico a couple times, you say it like you have a Mexican accent. And so we got in this fight because they were like, no, I'm just pronouncing it how it's correctly pronounced. And I said, fuck off. You wouldn't walk into a shop and be like, hey, how are you? Can I get a croissant? If you speak French, if you speak their language, for sure, pronounce it. But you are a white person who cannot do anything and you have a history of cultural appropriation and being fucking difficult. You are just being petulant. We got in this whole argument and there were other people around and this person is very difficult, so no one ever stands up to them. But I just, here's the thing about me. I very rarely have an opinion, and well, no, that's not true. I have a lot of opinions. Now I'm fighting with myself, and that's how easy it is sometimes. It's as simple as that. But on a principle level, sometimes with people who are stubborn, and this probably, if we really had to analyze it, is probably more about me being stubborn, they annoy me to my core when I just feel like I'm like, you're being so wrong, and because you're so fucking annoying, no one would ever fight you on this, but I do have the time, patience, and energy to fight you on this purely out of principle. And I know that I am probably that person to so many people where they're like, I can't even be bothered to argue with you. Sure, don't argue with me. And then sometimes people do decide to take me on. But when that conversation came about where they were adamant that no, they just know how to pronounce the correct thing because they've been to Mexico for a month, I was like, shut the fuck up. You would never say croissant. You'd never go like, can I have a scone? Shut the fuck up. You don't get to pick and choose. Yeah, this is the energy I'm kind of gonna have to fall asleep through. So the soft plan was to kind of talk about Australia because this episode is bye-bye Australia. That's what this is. That's how this is going. We are leaving for 6 months. We are hitting the road, Jack. And so I did want to talk a bit about Australia, but I don't know if it's the sous vide bath that has cooked my brain, body, and soul and spirit and every kind of moment of like energy that I had pre-bath. I think I Epsom salted too bad, and I don't know if you're supposed to snort them. Remember when all the kids were eating Tide Pods? I think my brain has literally been overcooked because I cannot think of a word, say a word, and when I am saying them, they're not coming out right. So the agenda really was to discuss Australia and all the things I love about Australia, but I just couldn't really figure out a list for that. I do think as I've gotten older, I come to appreciate this country more. And to be honest, the dream would be to be able to live here, be based here, and have a career. However, there's no money in the arts in Australia. If you're from Australia, you probably know that. If you're not, it's probably the same in whatever country you're from. There's just no money, despite the fact that in the world we live in, which is so difficult, people turn to things like TikTok, Netflix to entertain themselves. So you would think feed the beast, create more content, keep the zombies on their phones, but instead we're putting money toward the dumbest shit. And it's like, I just don't even understand. But so I wanted to talk about that. I think I do want to talk a bit about this culture in Australia. And part of the thing that I find a bit hard is a thing called tall poppy. Now, I have mentioned it before. We've had a slight dive into this world, but tall poppy, if you aren't aware, if you are, feel free to skip forward about 25 seconds. Tall poppy is essentially like a term that is very widely used in Australia that refers to the fact that in Australia, you kind of can't be too big for your boots or britches or whatever that fucking saying is. You know, in Australia, if you try hard, we don't like it. We don't like it. It's not cool. You can't be too important. You can't be too famous. You can't be any of those things because people would just be like, all right, mate, fucking sit down. No one cares. I'm going to get the technical definition. Again, we have discussed tall poppy, but I don't want to be wrong. Definition. Tall poppy syndrome is a term that originated in Australia and New Zealand in the 80s that refers to people with noticeable public success who excessively promote their own achievements and opinions. Intense scrutiny and criticism of such a person is termed as cutting down the tall poppy. So I guess the main idea is like no one wants you to be successful. It is gauche, it is uncool, it's not interesting. And I would say that extends, that kind of cultural energy extends as far as like the perception or the kind of like energy that it's like, it's not cool to try. Whereas when I think about America, it's like, yeah, dude, give it a fucking shot, dude, yeah. And that is kind of a little more aligned with like what I like. You know, in America, they seem to like work hard because they have to, and it's cool to try, and it's cool to be passionate, it's cool to be like, fuck yeah, man, you know, whereas here it's kind of like, ugh. Now, the UK, I was speaking to a British person, I said, you know, what's the vibe with the tall poppy? In America, it's cool to try, it's cool to work hard, right? In Australia, you work-ish hard, but it's not interesting, cool, or acceptable to admit that you care or like anything. Whereas in the UK, apparently, and this was one British person's opinion, apparently the vibe is you work hard, but you won't admit to it. And I feel like the UK is kind of that in-between of those two cultures. The don't try, it's pathetic and embarrassing, and try hard and be proud of how hard you work and like, yeah, dude, like, we love USA vibes. And then in the middle of that is the UK, who clearly work hard and clearly care about things, but kind of have that like snooty, like, but don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. And I think I will be interested to see how being in the UK for a couple months, I experience that and like absorb it. Because I personally, as I've gotten older, I have become less interested in hiding the things that I like. I like very little things. I am a high energy, passionate person, but I have very little interest. Like I know lots of people have hobbies. I have no hobbies. I don't have anything of interest. I am very mono-focused on comedy. I love comedy. Listen to it, write it, think about it all the time. If you ever have spoken to me or had a conversation with me and you think that I'm locked in with you, I'm not. I'm thinking about how you're saying something that I could turn into a joke, not because I'm trying to like mine it intentionally, but because that is just my brain thinks of like how something's funny all the time. Because I also like that framework, that worldview. But again, in Australia, it's like kind of not seen as interesting or cool to like be passionate or be like hardworking or care. It is almost seen as a negative thing, which is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. And I have been frustrated by that kind of cultural approach to anything, because if you're working whatever job you're working, you can have a kind of nonchalant, look me being fresh, nonchalant. See, you wouldn't say that, you'd go nonchalant. Take that to the bank, to put that in your pipe and smoke it. But you wouldn't, if you were working a whatever job that you don't really care about, you can bring a whatever attitude, respect. But if you have something that you love, whether that's like your relationship or a hobby or your career or your children, I don't want you being indifferent and not giving a fuck about me if I am your child, or, you know, like, I think it is cool to care. And I sound like a fucking dork who's trying to convince all of the cool kids to give a fuck about an exam they have to pass. But that is the truth. As I get older, I'm like, whatever. What are you going to spend your whole life pretending to not give a shit and be indifferent toward things? Have the best fucking time. Also, yeah, I got Botox in my eyebrow crease, and then I've been stressed recently, and I can't move my forehead because I said put a couple CCs in the forehead, bad bitch. And she went a little too hard and I went a little too hard, and now I can't move the top half of my head and it feels bizarre. So anyway, I just need to say that because I just expressed my face, but I could feel myself not actually expressing my face. So whatever, at least it'll wear off in a couple months. I love so much about Australia, you know, the older I get, the more I've been fortunate enough to travel internationally and meet people from all over the world in when they come to Australia to do comedy and to perform and stuff. This is a fabulous country that has so much cool shit about it. The lifestyle's really good. Like, there's so much positive. But I think if I could change one thing about Australian culture, it would be kind of be more passionate and open about enjoying things. Now, the final gig I did in Sydney, my final gig in Sydney, Australia for 2025 was Saturday night, and it was a birthday party. And now, a lot of money, which of course is the only reason I said yes to it, because I needed the cash. More, and when I say a lot, I mean just more than I would regularly get for doing 10 minutes at a club show around Sydney, because I had to go there, and you're really paying for your ego to be bruised, battened, and beaten the shit out of, and then you just kind of think about the cold hard cash that will come into your account. It was, you know, I was telling my sister and our friends today, I was like, they're like, how's the gig? And I was like, I have just become so incredible at disassociating intellectually, physically, emotionally from my body when I enter a horrible gig, that my body just kind of stays in the car where it's parked on the street in a dark side alley, and I walk somehow disassociated into the room, tell some jokes, do some crowd work, leave, and come back into my body the moment I sit down and buckle myself in to drive 40 minutes back to my house. Now, this gig wasn't really that bad, but it was a combination, a beautiful mixing of errors and weird things. Now, I had 2 gigs last night. I organized to do this birthday party a few days before, which is kind of great, because when you say yes to doing things you don't want to do, it doesn't matter who you are. We all think about, oh God, it's coming. Oh God, it's coming. You'll be walking down the street and then you remember that you said yes to something in 4 months that you don't want to do. It is a dark shadow that is constantly chasing you over your shoulder until you have to face the night. And whatever you think, it's never going to be as bad as you think. But when there's low expectations and there's a low kind of refractory period, I don't even think that's right, because I think that's about guys getting hard again after they come. Ignore that, please. Cut that in post, Jess. But when there is a short build-up, rather, to an event you're not looking forward to, it's almost the ideal scenario. You know, it's like if someone said, hey, can I come over in 20 minutes? I need to talk to you about something, versus, hey, on Friday, today's Tuesday, on Friday, can we have a conversation? Then I'm shitting bricks all week. So I only said yes to the gig a couple days before. Amazing. I also had other things distracting me, like the fact that I had to pack my life up. Fantastic. Anyway, I go to my first gig, and on the drive to the second gig, I get told we don't have a microphone, speaker, spotlight. Okay, all things necessary to do stand-up, other than the fact that I will physically stand up. I said, no worries, fine. And then I get told, oh, by the way, the birthday party that you are going to go and perform at, it's actually pirate themed. And I said, what? Why tell me that information unless you're expecting me to dress as a pirate or do jokes about pirates? And I got none of that. So I am now white-knuckling the steering wheel, driving for 45 minutes to the location, knowing full well that I'm going to show up and people are going to be dressed as a pirate. And what happens? Exactly that. I arrive, they're mid-speeches. So people are already getting antsy because they want to get fucked up because they're older, they have children, and this is the only night they have to themselves. So people aren't really looking to hear me continue to talk. I get there, stand on the side of the house whilst they finish their speeches, starting to think, fuck me dead. I have to go and do a speech about someone, aka me, despite the fact that all these people just want to get hammered. So finally they're like, oh, and lastly, like before we get into the night, we have a comedian. The whole room turns, stares at me. You know, the thing about comedy or like being on stage is I think the perception is we want to be looked at all the time. I can't think of anything worse than walking down an aisle for a wedding. I don't want you looking at me like that. That makes me sick to my fucking stomach. I am cool when I'm on stage because there's rules here of like what are the parameters, and I'm also doing something. Like as much as you are looking at me and I am the center of attention in quotes, like ultimately I am trying to serve you. Like I am trying to make you laugh and trying to entertain you. So yeah, you're looking at me, but like it's coming back at you and you have so much power. I don't want to be the center of attention unless it's within that context. You know, when I'm with my friends, we're all shit talking, having a blast. That's very different. But the point is, so whenever people like do that sort of thing where they'll be like, and she's over there, I'm like, God damn, look away. So then they were like, okay, and before we get into it, like we've got a comedian. And I walk into the center of this house sheepishly. And I'm like, hi, everyone. Did you guys know there was a comedian coming? No. Okay, amazing. Well, and then the guy who hired me, he was like, do you want to just start? And I was like, well, maybe, you know, all these people could grab a seat and like get a drink and like, because you've paid me for 25 minutes, right? Which no one wants that. I mean, that is the kiss of death, 25 minutes. No one wants to do anything for 25 minutes. So he's like, no, just start. And then someone else was like, no, let me get a drink. And I was like, this is gonna be the end of me psychologically. And I've got no free sessions with my therapist left because I used them all up in the anticipation of leaving the country. So I couldn't reap the rewards of 10 free sessions from the Australian government. So now I'm about to intentionally hurt myself emotionally at this show and I have no one to talk to after. So they all get a couple drinks. Now I say to them, all right, I'll stand here. And in front of me is a big table with drinks and food and whatever. And everyone's kind of scattered on the other side. There's an outdoor fire pit. There's a barbecue going. There's a couch. There's a lot happening. And they go, no. There's about 50 people here. So why don't you stand on a chair? And I said, shallow Hal moment. What? If you've dragged me all the way out here and I stand on a chair and this shit collapses under my body weight while you're all dressed as pirates and I'm in an all brown outfit looking like the fucking treasure chest, I'll kill myself on the drive back. I will drive over the speed limit right into a brick wall along the highway. Mark my words, this will be the last time someone sees me alive. They made me stand on a chair. A fucking chair. With no microphone. I had dry mouth for the first 6 minutes. My body was in cortisol, fight or flight. And I just kept thinking about the zeros on that paycheck and the fact that I need the money for an expensive city because I didn't have a job in London and I didn't have anything in London. I'm going there raw dog in that city on my own as a big dog. When I was 22 and moved to New York City, I was dumb as fuck, bitch. I had no idea what was coming down the line. I'm 31. I'm a battler. I've seen shit. I know how things work. Yeah, I don't know how taxes technically work, but I know you got to pay them. At 22, I didn't think about anything. I'm 31 now. I'm thinking about freezing my eggs. You know, that weighs on a woman's shoulder. Just one, because I don't think I'll ever freeze them and use them, but I'm thinking about it. Because there are evolutionary ticking time bombs that infiltrate our hormones in our body, and it's terrifying. Yeah, a couple years ago, my mum said, hey, do you want to get your eggs frozen? I said, can I have the cash value of my eggs? And we never spoke about it again. So that was disappointing because I really needed a bit of cash flow at the time. I still need cash flow. So, you know, that was the last show I did in Sydney. The only other thing I really want to talk about, and I don't even know if I have much in me, but I do just want to say, I've been having a lot of conversations recently with different friends, and the concept of loneliness has come up. Now, I don't know if you're feeling lonely in your home, in your AirPods, in your laptop, wherever you're listening, watching me from. I don't know if you're feeling lonely, but I have had a number of fascinating conversations recently about the concept of loneliness, specifically because I think I don't know what it is about, but I've had it with a number of friends, like to the point where I've gone, this is an epidemic of sorts. Now, do I have a solution? Nay. I am but a woman who has opinions. Solutions and opinions, very different. Opinions, usually wrong. Solutions, often wrong too. Now, do I have an answer? As I said, no. No solutions, no answers. But as I've been pondering the idea, like Carrie Bradshaw sitting in her window wondering, I couldn't help but wonder, is loneliness, can you spell loneliness without I-O-U? God, I wish that worked out. That doesn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying. I've been thinking a lot about loneliness, and I think there's kind of two parts in my brain, and I don't know what it means yet. I'm still thinking. But I think there's one part, and I think this is a little bit sad because now that we exist so much on our phone, we have this is not going to be funny. This is just waxing what's waxing philosophy, whatever the term is. I'm just about to run my fucking mouth, but it's not going to be funny. But anyway, but I just want to talk about it because I think the fact that so many people in my friendship, like in my world, have expressed loneliness to me, I think it is then maybe a general sentiment of my generation, of our time. I don't know. But when I've been thinking about it, I think we are so isolated because we watch stuff online and we read stuff and we engage with content that is so personalized, that is so for you, that is your algorithm. It is your specific world that is made on your phone, on your computer. And we wear our AirPods and listen to podcasts when we're walking from our car to our this, or we are so kind of up our own fucking asses. Which also I think has created this weird thing where like then the expectation is that everything is like for you, right? Because I've noticed that with comedy online specifically. Like I'll put a clip up and there are comments that people make that I can tell that they kind of are grumpy that this has come across their algorithm because it doesn't align with their worldview. And that's okay. You don't need to agree with me. But what I've noticed is they're kind of critical about something that isn't the exact same opinion as their own. Or if they don't find something funny. Let's go with that scenario more. I think that simulation makes a bit more sense, or that kind of scenario. Let's say I put a clip up online and someone is like, this isn't funny. Well, maybe it's not for you, bitch. And maybe it actually is, because if it's on your algorithm, it probably is, honey. So maybe you consider that, bitch. But everyone now is so obsessed. They have their algorithm that just feeds them shit to their face that is for them, that is specific to them. We are too catered to as people. And then it gives this perception that the world is for you specifically. Honey. Not everything I put online is for you. Some of it is, and that's great. And if you relate to it, that's amazing. But we have lost this kind of sense or ability to relate to other people and to be open-minded enough to think that other people who are different are allowed to exist. I know that sounds psychotic, but it makes sense in my head because I think we are so used to our worlds being so right for us. You can order anything you want, to look the way you want, to watch everything, to not watch anything that doesn't upset you. We are in this like hyper-personalized, hyper-algorithmic world. And by extension, I sound psychotic, but by extension, what I think has happened is people have lost this like baseline kind of like excitement or ability to engage with other people that aren't exactly who they are. And I think by extension, it has created loneliness, because I think the thing that has increased for me, and especially the beautiful thing about comedy, especially performing for very varied audiences, like even the show I'm referencing from the other night where I was like, they were all dressed as pirates. They were between the ages of 24 and maybe like 85, and I had to find a way to entertain them all. Now, I couldn't entertain them all simultaneously. I am just one woman. What I could do is try to, throughout my show, throughout my set, throughout my time with this crowd, try to tell different jokes that got all of them laughing at different points so that they all felt kind of like listened to, or I hit this guy's sense of humor with that kind of joke. I referenced this, I crowd worked that, just so that we don't all laugh at the same things, but I am trying my best to kind of like give everyone a little bit of something. What comedy has really given me, and this is why I do a lot of crowd work, is like I have a genuine curiosity. A genuine just get through something serious, Jess. Come on, bitch. I have a genuine curiosity. Like, to me, people are so fascinating and interesting and funny and compelling. Like, I love nothing more, and my friends always make fun of me, than people sitting down and telling me, like, in excruciating detail about their day. Like, if you told me what time you woke up, how you were feeling, you got up, what were you wearing, what did you change into, what food did you eat, what did you do then, what sort of conversations did you have? Call me fucking strange, but I find that shit utterly fascinating. Now, does everyone need to find the minute details of the people's lives around them interesting? Absolutely not. You find anything interesting you want. However, I think because we are so used to having a world that is so personalized, we've become so narcissistic, and then we don't take joy in other people. And that joy in other people is, to me, the fundamental, like the like, what's the center, the nucleus of connection. And that, in some ways, I think is the reason why people are so lonely. I'm sure there is a good psychological definition, understanding, that I am completely wrong. But in my humble opinion, as I've gotten older, especially as my sister had kids, has had a kid, has two on the way, as you know, and my friends have had kids, and like my friends have like community through partners and all this stuff. Like, I have been so lucky to continue having really good relationships as like my friends' lives and my family has like evolved and grown. And it's so lame to say, but like the whole, like, it takes a village, like whether that's raising a person or that's just like creating community, like, and companionship and all that stuff. Like, I think about this notion of loneliness, and it is only going to get worse as we become more like hyperfixated on our phones. Now, I don't know what to tell you. Do I think there's a way to fix that? No. I think that if people found more things, like if they were more curious about other people's lives, I do think that would solve things, because it would mean that when you stand next to someone, you emanate a better energy that then like you talk to them. Like, you know, my mum always, when she would visit me when I was living in the States, like make fun of me being like, oh my God, waiters are so, like, they just are so nice to you. Like, I feel like they're always, like, you're always having banter with them and like, they're so nice to you, they like you. And I was like, yeah, if you show a bit of like openness or like, I don't know, joy, and like when someone goes, hey, how are you guys? Welcome to the restaurant, blah, blah, and you go, yeah, I'm great. How are you? It just opens a pathway for like chit chat. And I know this sounds so lame. Shut up. Stop looking at me. Stop listening to me. But I feel this deep sadness about this sense of loneliness people feel, because being lonely is a really hard thing. We've all experienced it. I mean, I have too. Like, you know, tomorrow I'll probably be like, why is everyone in my life mad at me? I don't understand. You know, when it rains, it pours. When you think one person hates you, you think the world hates you. But I think this feeling of loneliness is so rancid and sad and scary. And I really think, call me an old conspiracy theorist, but I just think our obsession, I really can, in my mind, there is a clear tether between the algorithm being so specific to you and it creating a narcissistic pipeline to us that makes us ultimately lonely, because we stop realizing how to like generically be interested in other people. Does this make sense, or am I just anxious about leaving Australia tomorrow and my body and brain is melting like a sad little candle from Kmart? I don't know. If I had to give a solution to the loneliness problem, I would say I urge you and I compel you, even if you're an introvert, to try your hand at showing real, genuine curiosity in someone else. Whether that is your neighbor or a friend that's existing but you don't feel super attached to them, or a parent or someone at a shop. I know this is so lame, but my suggestion, God, someone do a lame count on this episode, 45. But my suggestion is like, just take a second to find what you find interesting about people and kind of spend a couple days like really subtly seeing if you can like see that in others. Because I really think the thing that I've learned in the last couple years, and I really think it's through crowd work and comedy and learning how to find people in every kind of audience fascinating, and also finding like to me, the most amazing and important thing is seeing what makes someone laugh. Once I know what makes you laugh, game over. Game over, we're locked in, we're going to have a blast. So to me, that is like when I can make someone laugh, like you've just shown me your belly and I'm about to scratch it, like a dog who's comfortable, like turning up on, putting its legs up and kicking back and being like, scratch my titties. I'm like, let's fucking go. So I think whether you're feeling, if you're not feeling lonely, I hope you skip this whole portion. But if you ever feel that sense of loneliness, I really do, for me, have found that like avoiding or not feeling lonely comes from like just feeling connected to other people. And I think a cheat code to connect with other people is by showing genuine curiosity about them. Because loneliness is about you. You feel lonely. But if you can connect with someone else through like what they find interesting, ask them about their favorite movie. Let them chat. It kind of soothes the soul. I don't even know why we're talking about this. Also, I do think my own advice is valuable. I'm about to go to another city where I literally don't know anyone, and try to like see if London is going to be a place that I want to like set my fucking life up again, as a 31-year-old woman. So I think I need to heed my own advice of just remembering to find things to connect with people about. And I think connecting with people is about looking at what they find interesting, not about what you want to tell them. Am I a genius? Am I evolved? Or am I high on the fume of Epsom salts that were in the bath? Anyone could guess, but I don't want the feedback. Now, I've got to go. This episode needs a lot of TLC for edits. I need to hang out some laundry that won't be dry by tomorrow morning, so someone else is going to have to fold and put it away in about a week. And I feel sad for whatever they find in the drawers. And then I got to pack my carry-on with this microphone and this camera because, baby, I'm taking you with me. I will be on the airwaves by next Tuesday. We will have a fresh fucking episode called Hello London. No, I don't know if that's true. I think this one will just be called Bye Bye Sydney because it's a wrap-up. It's a little bit about comedy. It's a little bit about my last 24 hours with shows. It's a little bit about loneliness, which is something I have been speaking with some internationals about. So, hey, who knows? But I want to say, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, thank you to everyone who's joined me at a show this year. Thank you for anyone who's ever messaged me saying they like the podcast. That shit hits so hard. That hits hard. Hey, over and out. I'll see you next week. And if you are in the UK, I'll be doing a bunch of shows. So like check out my Instagram and shit. Come and see a show. Come and tell me you listen to podcasts. Come and say hi. Come and tell me what thrift shops to check out. Get out there, bitches. Live your life. Live your life. Hey. Slowly fade out. You can my life. Hey.